And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking Mercedes. Have they awakened? Has the giant awakened? Is it a new dawn at Mercedes, given their practice pace at Monaco? Well, we've been here before. Possibly not, but there is some hope. And we will most certainly be getting into that bit of hope. Yeah, so we will be talking about Mercedes pace at Monaco. Lewis Hamilton, quite happy. George Russell is struggling though, but in FP1 he wasn't particularly too bad. Also, Max, fairly unhappy with his car. Not particularly great. Red Bull really seem to be struggling this weekend. And also, Sainz, rumours about Carlos going to Williams. I mean, what? Williams, one of the slowest teams. I mean, this is one of the most exciting unemployed drivers going to one of the slowest teams. What? I mean, pray tell, what does it all mean? So let's get into Hamilton and being quite happy at Mercedes. He's praising it. He's basically saying it's the best day they've had after a strong Monaco practice showing. He said that while there are still, and he admits there's still challenges to navigate, he's absolutely feeling positive about his chances going into the Monaco Grand Prix. And as we know, it is all about qualifying, isn't it? Now, the Mercedes driver topped FP1 in Monte Carlo before finishing in FP2 second behind Charles Leclerc, with the W15 looking quite competitive early on around the track. I mean, straight from the word go, he was looking good, and that's something we've not really seen with Mercedes all the time. But he said himself he was really enjoying the W15. He took pole position, as we know, at another high downforce track last year in Hungary, and the year before that, it was George Russell. So it's hopeful that Mercedes heading into this weekend could be one of their better races, especially with Red Bull, in the guise of Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, struggling. But he admitted there's still work to do. The seven-time champion spoke positively, and he said, it's been a good day. Definitely been the best day we've had on track. He told F1 TV after free practice too. He said, I think the car was feeling really positive, really enjoying driving it. The track is amazing and the grip is feeling quite good. I think we still have some challenges with the balance, but it was looking strong. What we want now is Mercedes and Hamilton not to do that. I'm going to mess with the setup, make it even worse for Saturday. And there we go. And the other thing is, he was strong in the morning practice where I think he was fastest, wasn't he? And FP2, where he was second fastest, they were two completely different times. Where the morning practice, where he was fastest, albeit that, remember, Monaco, the track is going to evolve as the cars, the F1 cars, the F2, F3, put all that tyre down on the track. It is going to get quicker and quicker. But importantly, at the time of the race, which was roughly around, I think, free practice 1, they were quick. They were looking good. However, is this going to be a false dawn for Mercedes? There is. Oh, as I just throw money on the floor. There is some potential data that may well suggest otherwise, which we'll be getting into after we speak about what has been troubling the Bulls of late at Monaco. Yeah, Max quite unhappy with his car. He's branded it his RB20, and well, kangaroo in practice with bouncing. I don't know if it's porpoising though, but he was left unimpressed by the behaviour of his RB20 during second practice, and first practice wasn't particularly great for Max either. Now, the weekend got off to a tricky start, as we know, with he was over half a second off the pace during that second practice session. Having finished outside the top 10, he finished 11th in that first practice session. To be fair, though, he had ignored that soft tyre, and Charles Leclerc was setting the pace up front in the second practice with Ferrari. All eyes on what Max Verstappen was going to do. The favourite for the World Championship still is, but having gone quickest in the first sector, he went purple. He backed off on his first quick attempt, kind of gathering himself up, finishing over half a second down. Charles Leclerc set a time that was faster than last year's pole position time on a 1:11.278. Worse though for Verstappen, he wasn't even the closest driver to Leclerc. That was Mercedes' own Lewis Hamilton and Aston Martin's Fernando Alonso. Mercedes cars in general not looking too bad at the track. They both managed to get in front of Verstappen. Now, on top of that, he was clearly not happy with the handling of his car, was Max, and he complained over the radio about what was called the bad ride quality, growing frustrated at the problem manifesting itself. Now, Verstappen revealed over the radio, he said, "I'm jumping like a kangaroo, man. I'm getting headaches. It's crazy." And it was an issue for both Red Bulls, with Sergio Perez also reporting issues with the handling of his car. He said the ride is horrendous, and he finished in 8th place and over 0.8 of a second off the pace, a few tenths off Max Verstappen. And it's Sergio Perez that fears that Ferrari already are unreachable as they go into Monaco. And he believes the Friday at Monaco was the precursor to what Red Bull are saying could be a difficult weekend. That's something Max also said. And for the second consecutive round, the Milton Keynes squad, Red Bull, were kind of like underwhelmed. He said it's going to be tough. I think our limitation for us is really hard to get away with at the moment. He said, and he went on to say, "We'll see what we are able to come up with tonight. We ran the two cars slightly different. I don't know what the issues are for Max. So plenty of things. The long run pace seems to be in better condition. It's just too late. We'll have to wait and see." Now, the issue is, I think, with thinking that Red Bull are going to have an absolute struggle session, they may well do. I mean, we kind of guessed it in Singapore. Miami, they weren't exactly strong in Imola. But then even at Imola, where I think a lot of people had convinced themselves, potentially me included, that no, Red Bull were not getting pole position. Max was most certainly not getting pole position. But, and yeah, here's the kicker, is that in the end they did get pole position because the taskmaster, Liam Lawson, ended up doing an absolutely slam dunk job on the simulator. I think 13 hours to get it right, and I imagine they'll be doing it here too. So let's get into the practice here on the Twitter. We've got the Formula data analysis. Red Bull, they're saying, was way down on power in their quality simulations. They were running on what was a very low engine mode. Their top speed, they're saying, was even the lowest one from FP1. Now, the engine deficit was worth, 0.3 seconds versus Ferrari. Yet, they're saying their struggles are real. I mean, when you look at the engine modes there, it looked like Haas were quite good, and Williams, Aston and Mercedes quite similar engine modes, and Red Bull all the way down, as you can see there, 279. I mean, it's crazy. And someone's put, "I'm going to post some analysis this evening." Yes, I mean, yeah, it's not good at all. When you look at the pole sectors, quickest in all sectors, they put Ham 0.2 seconds Sector 1 versus Ham, 0.2 seconds. Leclerc 0.15 up versus Alonso, and 0.09 versus Hamilton. So a lot quicker, not a lot quicker, but quicker than everyone else. Leclerc, clear favourite for pole, they're saying, but they've also suggested that Hamilton is looking good too. But Max is struggling with the setup, and mentioning the kangaroo. And someone put, "It's very significant, even with the engine mode explaining part of the big gap." But they said, however, that does not take away from the real struggles that Red Bull is facing concerning setup, based on Max's bouncing kangaroo comments. Yeah, Verstappen struggling with setup again, right down there in sectors 1, 2 and 3. So they're suggesting it's not all about the engine modes. And even Lewis Hamilton, who was not a million miles away from Leclerc, which is going to be concerning. I think Red Bull, and may even, and let's be fair, it may even be concerning Mercedes, other team McLaren, because McLaren. I mean, let's quickly just have a look at the at the sessions to see how they did. So you get. Bear with me. I'm just going to get the results up before we talk about the wonderful Carlos Sainz potentially going to Williams. That's a bizarre story. I really am looking forward to getting into that. Absolutely, I am. So let's get into Monaco. Let's get into the practice session, and let's share. This is we'll look at practice 1 first. There we go. So this is practice 1. Hamilton a 112.169. Just faster than Piastri, than Russell, Norris and Leclerc, Alonso, Stroll. All the Mercedes drivers looking good. We said Ricciardo and Tsunoda looking quite good. They're 8th and 9th, only a few hundredths apart. And there's Max on the medium tyres, albeit all the way back in 11th on 8 tenths. Now, when Max went from medium to softs in FP2, he initially improved by about 3 tenths. Not as much as I to be fair, not as much as I thought he would. Now, when we look at practice number 2, it's Leclerc again fastest by only a tenth. Then there's nearly a half a second gap between Leclerc and Alonso. There is over half a second a gap between Leclerc and Verstappen. I think that's one of the biggest gaps we've seen amongst the practice sessions for for FP2 at least. Norris a bit down as well. I kind of really thought McLaren would be a bit more up there. Perez 8 tenths down. Sonoda 11th, and Ricciardo, 1.2. Yeah, so there's only 3 tenths between Sonoda and Ricciardo, and that's like 6 places. It's going to be a really tough qualifying. I do think it will close up, but the exciting thing, if you are a Mercedes, Ferrari and McLaren fan, and even an Aston Martin fan, is that Red Bull may be struggling. It's not set in stone. We know as well as anyone that the team that is at Red Bull will always come back. It reminds me a bit of Mercedes in their dominant years, where they didn't really try too much in FP1 and FP2, and then it was the next day in qualifying when they almost got their engine up in party mode, or turned their engine up for quali, turned everything up, and then suddenly they got pole. It does feel that way, but just like in Singapore, Imola last year, Imola and Miami, Max is complaining a lot over the radio, which will give some people that don't want Max to win some hope. We'll see. It's over, on the front row, over 80% of Monaco victories are won from the front row. So we know it's either pole or second you're really going to have to be to have a realistic chance of winning. People have won outside that before, though, but yeah, and it's a big but, isn't it? It is normally, as I said, over 80% from that front row. So next up, we've got Sainz to Williams. Let's talk about that. Now, he is one of the 3 Formula 1 race winners this year, and he seems almost untenable that he could be tempted to join Williams, and this is from motorsport.com. But as the paddock whispers emerged, he is in talks, and they are apparently quite serious talks for Williams, which is weird. And motorsport.com have said, of course, as a driver at the top of his game who has shown he can fight on equal terms with the best, Sainz's preference is obviously be to keep himself in a race-winning seat for 2025. And he said, with Red Bull and Mercedes clearly not falling over themselves to snap out the Spaniard, they edge towards other options, for example, keeping Perez, which is a surprise, and we've spoken about that, and or Kimi Antonelli, which might make sense. They said the easiest choice for him would be to take the security of a long-term works deal, for example, Audi. I think that too. I think that's going to be the most obvious thing. But other than guaranteeing several years, they're saying it's not without risk, Sainz going to Audi. And the biggest is that it could be quite a step backwards in competitiveness. But then Williams are not exactly fastest yet. So while Audi is throwing a tremendous amount of money at its F1 entry, its new power unit could be a massive question mark. And Sauber, they really, really do need to invest. So if he takes up the Audi offer of moving from a Ferrari team that's fighting for wins each weekend to a Sauber squad, it may well be fighting getting out of Q1. And they're suggesting that Williams right now doesn't look much better, but the team has been clear about their potential for rapid improvement. And this could be the reason why James Vowles went so public last weekend in Imola, revealing that the FW46 is well overweight and giving away a bunch of lap time that's easily recoverable. He's been quite open about that. I think James Vowles has done an absolutely sterling job. He said the car this year that we've been running is about 4.5 tenths a lap slower. Every lap by the fact it is still overweight. And he says if you take off the 0.45 seconds that Vowles allegedly said is being left on the table because of its weight, it would absolutely, because that mid-pack is so close, it would transform their season, wouldn't it? Now, beyond the weight factor, Vowles is also making the use of investment from the team owner Dorsal Capital to ramp up Grove's infrastructure and get on even terms with the squad. When he turned there, he made jokes that, we'll see some of the stuff that Williams are using on the Antiques Roadshow soon. And there perhaps is no better proof of this conviction than the fact that Alex Albon, who is understood to have a chance of other seats, has obviously re-signed with Williams. And perhaps Williams' early move to Albon lockdown was showing other drivers about the promise of the future. And it says longer term too, especially as F1 heads into this new rules era. It means that Williams has a customer Mercedes engines, as does McLaren. And we know how good Mercedes was from 2013 to 2014. They were the engine to have, and it absolutely reignited Williams for 2014 and 2015. But perhaps it says the biggest attraction is that Williams could offer Sainz is flexibility. So the Audi offer would time down, the Williams offer not so much, we could choose to go elsewhere. So when you listen to all that, and the fact that he might not be going to Red Bull or Mercedes, if indeed they've said no, it does make more sense. But it is still, if I'm honest, an absolutely massive risk. But then so is going to Audi. Anyway, I digress. Thank you very much. If you made it to the end, give us a like, give us a subscribe. That would be amazing. If you do one of them, you're a champion. If you do both, you are a multiple world champion. And if you've already a subscriber, comment below, let us know who you think is going to win. Let us know about the practice, what you think. I love commenting on your comments. As I said, we will speak to you soon. Stay tuned. Thank you very much.